There were more surprises ahead. In the 1930s, another strange phenomenon was observed at even lower temperatures. This rapidly evaporating liquid helium cools until at 2 degrees above absolute zero, a dramatic transformation takes place.
Suddenly, you see that the bubbling stops and that the surface of the liquid helium is completely still. The temperature is actually being lowered even further now, but nothing particular is happening. Well, this is really one of the great phenomena in 20th century physics.
The liquid helium had turned into a superfluid which displays some really odd properties.
Here I have a beaker with an unglazed ceramic bottom of ultrafine porosity.
Ordinarily, this container with tiny pores can hold liquid helium. But the moment the helium turns superfluid, it leaks through.
We call this kind of flow a superflow.
Superfluid helium can do things we might have believed impossible. It appears to defy gravity. A thin film can climb walls and escape its container. This is because a superfluid has zero viscosity. It can even produce a frictionless fountain, one that never stops flowing. Superfluidity and superconductivity were baffling concepts for scientists. New radical theories were needed to explain them.
in. Superconductor is now cooling down, which will take a minute or so. It needs to be cooled down in situ, because what I'm trying to get to is to have the superconductor kind of locked into this position. So I need to cool it down in situ above the track. I'm cooling it down past its critical temperature, the temperature at which it will become a superconductor and its electrical resistance will completely disappear, which is about minus 180 degrees. The burger tray is there, maintain a spacing between the superconductor and the track. I mentioned that we're trying to lock it into a specific position, so that is the position that we want it to take up. Just going to slide this off. This is the best way I've found of doing this. If I hold this up quickly enough, you can see there that it's actually levitating on the track. You might be able to see a gap underneath it there, sliding back and forth, levitating. Oh, and okay, there. So unfortunately, its warm dishes last year was to make a little train stroke boat thing. So we've got a piece of the superconductor embedded in polystyrene with its own little reservoir for liquid nitrogen. So let's cool this down. Again, I'm going to, not a burger tray this time, a slightly different dish. Carefully pick it up, and I think, so now I can send it around, come all the way back, go back on top. This is why we made it like a Mobius strip, so it can go, so it comes back from the opposite side it went round. So if I stop it there, so it's kind of locked into position. So it's not just repelling the magnets and hovering. I can sort of pick it up and then stick it underneath as well, and it will hang there. So as I mentioned with the copper, when you induce electric currents in conductors with a moving magnetic field or changing magnetic flux, the electric currents that you create will always have their own magnetic field that resists that change, that resists that motion. So when it's hovering on top of here and gravity is trying to pull it towards the track, that small motion towards sets up electric currents in the superconductor which have a magnetic field that resists that motion. But likewise, when it comes around and it's now on the other side, now gravity is trying to pull it away, so that act of trying to fall away from the track sets up a different set of currents with a different magnetic field, which this time attract it to the track. So whichever way you try and move it, whether you're trying to move it off to the side, up and down towards the track, away from the track, the superconductor will resist that motion, effectively locking itself into position relative to the track, so that the only direction it can move is the direction in which the magnetic field doesn't change, i.e. along the track. So basically, the superconductor can be any kind of magnet it wants to be, or any kind of magnet it needs to be at that moment to keep itself in the right position relative to the track. So this material was a real breakthrough, and possibly the first step on the way to what might be the holy grail of superconductor research, which would be a superconductor that would operate at room temperature or close to room temperature, at which point we might be able to use them to replace all of the conventional conductors like copper and things that we use in all our electrical applications today. And all of those materials, when they conduct electricity, they do it inefficiently to some extent and waste energy. If we could superconduct in those applications, then that would really change the world.
Welcome to G-Force One, a specially modified 727 owned by the Zero G Corporation that gives guests the opportunity to experience short periods of weightlessness. And yes, your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. There is a Wonder Woman and a guy in a chicken costume on the flight with us due to the fact that it was Halloween morning.
Some men just want to watch the world turn.
You'll notice that the plane it's swinging in is actually rotating. To see this effect, you have to watch the pendulum for hours. You might even be tempted to dismiss this as some kind of mistake, some kind of experimental contamination. But no matter how carefully you isolate the system, the plane still rotates.